He's the voiceover studio engineer of the Stars in Los Angeles, California, a Virginia Tech grad with a knowledge of recording studios unmatched in his field. He's a voice actor from Buffalo, New York, with 30 years experience in recording studios and behind the mic. He solves people's home voiceover studio problems in the blink of an eye. Together, there's no studio problem they can't solve, and they'll do it for you tonight. Welcome to East West Audio Body Shop. Now, live from a basement in Buffalo and an office in LA, here are Dan Leonard and George Whittam.
Hey, Dan, wake up.
Whoa. Hi, I'm Dan Leonard in the East.
And I'm George Whittam in the West.
And together we are
East West Audio Body Shop.
Oh, close enough. All right. Welcome back to episode number 35.
35. Woo! Streamers and noisemakers.
Okay. East West Audio Body Shop. We're here for another week. It is Sunday, January 22nd. Who cares about football? You probably had enough of that Ravens game this afternoon. Right, left. How could you miss from there? That's unbelievable. Anyway, we've got a fabulous show tonight. Our very, 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 very special guest who will be joining us from his own studio, the king of audiobooks. Scott Brick will be here to talk about his career, how he got into audiobooks, how you can get into audiobooks, the technical necessities of recording audiobooks, and all sorts of other fun stuff. So we'll hear about his home studio and how he does what he does. Mm-hmm. Plus,
well, we got another someone popping in today too.
Oh, another special guest.
Yeah, we got a last minute guest who's only coming on the show today because he happens to be in town. He's based in Tucson, Arizona. His name's Rodger Cloud from Cloud Microphones and the creator of the Cloud Lifter, which he'll be explaining to you exactly what this thing is. But he's driving from Anaheim from the NAMM show, the North American Music Merchant Show. He's driving from there right now as we speak. So he'll be popping in at the end of the show to talk about his wares. So that's kind of cool. That doesn't happen every day.
That's true. It's got to take 22 to 405 and all the way down to San Juan.
Yep.
Give him that extra half hour. But that should be very interesting. You're going to talk a little bit about NAMM. You've got a little bit of footage from there. I have a very special piece tonight in my weekly tip of the week. 3 out of 3, George.
Not bad.
3 out of 3. 3 out of 3. This week we're going to talk about noise gates, and I will try to demystify noise gates for you. After this, you'll understand it.
I'm glad because, noise gates are something that need to be better understood by anybody that has a home studio, when it's acceptable to use them, when not, and how to get the best out of them.
That's right. And I'll try to explain that. Also, seeing as this is our show and I get to say what I want to say, if anybody out there, I didn't tell you about this one. If anybody out there has a 14-year-old young boy out there, now I'm not going there. I have a client that's looking for a 14-year-old voice actor or someone who sounds like they're 14. And so if you got any of your guys have the ability to read and you've got your own studio, which is really what we're looking for, email me here at EWABS or at homestudiomaster@verizon.net and send me I'll send you an audition.
So 14, is that pre or is that supposed to be after everything drops?
It can be before, during, or after. That's they
really
want a sort of almost preteen voice.
They want something in this range, but they can't quite make up their mind.
Exactly. So I thought I'd throw that out there. So I know somebody out there has a 14-year-old boy out there. So I mean, he could be 12, 13, 14. He could be 18, but if he sounds like he's 13 or 14, that's great too.
Right. Cool.
You were at NAMM all week.
I was at NAMM on Friday and Saturday, but it feels like those that go for the entire show, it's an absolute marathon. I don't know anybody, the big voice conference, you guys that have been to it, you know how that feels. This thing is way more intense. I mean, there are like 30 or 40,000 people and like 15, I think there's about 2,500 vendors. And it's unbelievable. So when you go to this thing, you have to have an idea of what it is that you want to see. I mean, the first year I went with my dad, back when we both worked at a music store, I just wandered the place just to get a feel for what was there, because it is mind-blowing how much stuff. And of course, most of it's all music-oriented. but they've got a lot of microphone makers and preamp makers and all the little bits and pieces, mic stands, pop screens, acoustical treatment, anything you can imagine that would be needed in a studio, it's at the show. So, you know, what I spent the last 2 days walking the floor of the show and finding new products, maybe things that aren't new, but things that I want you guys to know about. And I just handed the mic over to the vendor. Well, why don't I just share a segment and just
share the video.
Yeah, I've got one video here, just to, you know, one thing from a product that I think a lot of people have been waiting for. Here it is.
All right.
I am. How's the sound? Can you hear me okay? Perfect. All right. My name is Cody. We're hanging out at the Apogee booth at NAMM 2012, and I have a very exciting product to show you guys. Let me introduce you to Mic by Apogee. This is something that we are debuting today. It's out in the wild for the first time, right here, right now, and it's the world's first condenser mic that connects digitally to iOS devices. So what does that mean, you know, for the average person? It means that this is the first time we've ever been able to get really, really high-end audio quality from a microphone on an iPhone or an iPad. I am actually, now that Mike and one of our other products, Jam, are out, I'm recording now more on my iPhone than even on my computer, which sounds unbelievable, but things seem to be moving that way in the industry. So anyway, a couple things I'll tell you guys about this real quick. It is a cardioid mic, fantastic for vocals and acoustic instruments. It's really versatile. You can use it with almost anything out there, but I think those are giving me the best results when I'm doing recording is vocals and acoustic instruments like guitar. Great for voiceovers. One of the things you have, because it's actually got converters built into it, so you have a little gain control over here on the side, so you're not having to go into software to make adjustments. You can actually quickly raise or lower your gain while you're recording. And actually on the front here, there's a little LED that lights up under the word mic that will actually let you know if you're peaking or if you're into soft limit territory, all that good stuff. And then you can make adjustments accordingly, and it's right here where you can see it as you're singing. Now, there's no setup for it. There's no installation. You plug it in. We work pretty closely with the Apple guys to make sure that when you plug it in, it works, and you're not having to go through all kinds of different steps. There's a lot of applications out there that you can utilize with Mic and or Jam. We have a list of, I'd say, probably 40 or 50 of them on our website, and every day more and more and more are coming out. Our choice amp, though, is definitely GarageBand. We built it specifically to work for GarageBand on the iPad and iPhone. One of the things that we found out that you know, would be a pretty big benefit to you guys, I would assume, is in the initial stages of Mic, we would do recordings and we would send it off to engineers to mix, and we would get their feedback, their input. What do you think of this? They'd say, oh, the tracks sound amazing. We hadn't told them that we recorded them on our iPhone or on our iPad. You know, they're thinking they're getting session files from a computer, and so they're going, yeah, they sound great. You know, why do you ask? We recorded on an iPhone, and they just look at us like, there's no way. You know, that you didn't. You know, they think we're messing with them. So really, really just prestigious high-end audio quality now from a product that's running $199. You can, you know, pull out your phone, your iPad, your Mac at any time you want and get studio quality recordings. So pretty exciting product for us. You can pick this up pretty much anywhere. I mean, anywhere that Apogee products are sold, I'm sure you're going to be able to find this. But of course, Apple, Guitar Center, Sam Ash, Sweetwater, B&H, Vintage King, I mean, you name it. The list goes on and on and on. And you can go to our website, and there's a list of dealers in your area that you can find. We are releasing this in February, so just a couple short weeks until you can get your hands on one of these. However, I will say that if
I'm going to cut it off there because he goes into something that is irrelevant because it has to do with being at the show. It was a special, you know, you had to be at it. But anyway, that was totally raw, unedited, and I haven't had a chance to clean everything up. But that gives you a little teaser of, you know, some of the cool stuff I found there.
Man, he saw you coming and he had to change his underwear. You know, what? Oh boy, promotional opportunities.
Oh yeah, you know, it's amazing. I love, you know, the smaller the vendor or the smaller the company, the more, I think, the more nervous and excited the you know, the guy or the woman that you know, that was speaking on the product was. In a lot of cases, you were speaking to the actual owner or the manufacturer. You know, the guy whose name is on the product, like Mr. Richard Cloud, or I'm sorry, Rodger Cloud, I beg your pardon, who's coming tonight. You know, you're just talking to the guy and you tell him, oh, we have a show and we talk about voiceover and we talk about home studios and your product is definitely something that people are interested in. He's like, I want to be on there. I'll do what I have to do to get there. I'm like, okay. So, you know, it's fun. It benefits everybody. It gets more information out there. People hear about these new things that really are relevant to them, you know, the voiceover community. And I think everybody wins.
Yeah. But, you know, I having done a lot of remotes from, you know, when I was in radio at trade shows, you know, boat shows mostly. Those are always fun. And like, you'll go like, let's take a tour of this boat on the radio. And, you know, you take the microphone, you go crawling through the thing. Wow, look at the cabinet in here. This is really cool. It's always fun going to these shows, you know, RV shows and things like that. But electronic shows, my goodness, that must be like being in a candy store for you.
Oh, man, I can't. If I could have spent all 4 days there, I would have. Except I would have needed one of those Segway scooters to see the whole show, you know, and not be falling, you know, and not having blisters on my feet because it is huge. But yeah, it is a total kid in the candy store kind of show, no doubt about it. But I've got at least 25 videos just like that. And I'm going to clean them up as I can, and I'm going to roll them out. And the really good ones I'll show on the show over the next couple of weeks. But everything is going to go up on YouTube eventually. So stay tuned, and we'll make sure everybody sees all the stuff I captured.
Yeah. So it's fabulous to see some of the cool things that are coming out. We had been waiting for Mike. You know, Mike, where are you? Finally, it's arrived, at least, you know, not for a couple more weeks, but it's good to see an actual physical product of that thing. A little smaller than I thought it would be, but
it's a little itty bitty thing. Yeah. You know, but they wanted, you know, you're using it with a portable product. So why not make it small? You know,
that's right.
What was interesting is I didn't know it would work with an iPhone. But he kept saying that it was an iPhone compatible device because other devices at the show would say only works with iPad. Doesn't really work with an iPhone. May work with an iPhone,
though, isn't it?
Well, but it's apparently it's not just the OS. It's the voltage that the device can supply to the microphone, and it takes a good bit of juice. And I actually asked him off camera, why doesn't it have a headphone jack? Because to me, that's kind of somewhat of a glaring omission. It doesn't have a way to monitor. And he said that really, to be honest, to get really good quality preamplification and AD converting to digital, it's taking every last bit of drop of power that's available to do that. And he said it would have been a real compromise to add the headphone feature. So that made total sense to me. That I understood. It didn't sound like it was just sort of a way to explain it away. But I saw other products there. I saw the Digital Spark, which is a new product from Blue. That's also $199. That's also an iPad mic. That also has zero latency headphone monitoring. So you know, different companies figuring out different ways around these these issues. And you know, I can't wait to shoot those two out side by side. I mean, I think with the exposure that they're going to get in our industry, we'll probably be able to get our hands on some of these things for evaluation. Yeah.
What was the price point on Mike?
$199.
$199. Okay.
$199.
And that, if it's as good as they say it is, that's going to turn all of the remote stuff on its tuchus, as my father would say.
Yeah.
So it was that's a big game changer as we were waiting. And Spark too. At least you know, traveling with an iPad, and now with if it works with Twisted Wave or GarageBand, you have a total studio package there. All you have to do is find a good closet.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I you know, Apogee, they really, you know, their brand name has a huge, you know, there's a lot of precedence that comes with that name. So I have to believe that if they're going to put their name on something like this, it's going to be pretty good. And I know they spent a lot of extra time in R&D, and then a lot of time waiting for Apple to actually allow them to release the product, because you know, Apple really doesn't want to be able to do full-blown production on an iPad. They want you to buy a MacBook. But I think they've changed their mind, because at the show, you would not believe how much stuff there was for the iPad. And I mean, one system was a full-blown multi-track recording editing interface for $1,800 that plugs into an iPad. Unbelievable.
Why? Well, for a band, I suppose. Of course, I have the Tascam 4-track cassette player app for my iPad, just so
that thing's cool.
Remember that one.
Yeah, that thing's real cool. I think you showed it on the show a few months ago. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a cool one.
Yeah.
So anyway, talking about being in the closet, that's where you hang your clothes. You got to get the EWABS, the East West Audio Body Shop stuff up there.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Talking about being in the closet, where you hang your nice clothes, you want clothes with EWABS logos on it.
No doubt.
We need you to fly your freak flag, and so they've got everything there. It's us, the EWABS, the East West Audio Body Shop, where you can get
us.
hats. That is we.
There we are.
Not the Nintendo Wii, but yes, anything with our logo on it, and sweatshirts and hoodies and T-shirts and nighties, and it looks like they got, what do they call those things? Wife beaters?
Yeah, I think there's a wife beater. Is that still PC? Who cares?
It's
our apologies.
It's a colloquialism.
Yeah.
There's mouse pads. There's the
beer koozie.
The beer koozie, right?
That should be right next to the wife beater, actually. Maybe we could sell a combo pack on that one.
Yes. We are not endorsing wife beating here.
No. For those that are not in the country of the United States and do not understand that colloquialism, a wife beater is a shirt that's a very tight, it's tight.
Go rent a streetcar named Desire, and then you'll understand what we're
talking
about.
There you go. Exactly.
Stella!
There's the travel mug. There's the iPad sleeve. Yeah. Is the iPad sleeve back in stock? Let me take a look.
Let's see.
This thing was so popular. It's still out of stock.
Still out of stock. Well, they're on back order. But you can get one eventually. Anyway, what's the address where they can go and buy up everything so they can, they make great gifts and they're perfect for Valentine's Day. So
it's shop.ewabs.com.
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 The East West Audio Body Shop.
Yes,
right.
Please come by and grab a couple fun little things. We'd really appreciate it. And when you buy things, you do help support the show.
You do. All righty. Well, I've got another segment coming up. I've got a thing about noise gates. So stay tuned for that. Scott Brick will be with us in just a few minutes as well. So you stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.
VoiceOver Extra, the voiceover industry's online news, education, and resource center 24/7. Hundreds, probably thousands of free how-to articles for voiceover success, ranging from home studio to voice acting to business. A free voiceover industry directory, calendar of industry events, resource links, a store, and much more. Bi-monthly webinars on all topics of voiceover, free subscriptions to newsletters, reports, announcements, daily news, and features at voiceoverextra.com.
This is East West Audio Body Shop with Dan Leonard in the East and George Whittam in the West. Now back to two characters that didn't have anything else better to do, Dan and George.
Indeed. And we're back here in East West Audio Body Shop. And, it's interesting. I spend a lot of time on the forums. And if anybody goes out there and sees the stuff on LinkedIn and Facebook, I get into some pretty nasty arguments with some people.
It's in your nature.
It is.
It's New York.
I love a good political debate, but these guys are like, I say tomato, they say tomato.
Right.
And I'm like, the thing is, you don't have to be a geek to be good at this. Everybody says, I'm not technically proficient. I don't understand computers. I don't understand that. It's not rocket science, kids. We're showing you how to do the basics here because you really only have to learn some of the basics. And you don't need all that rack-mounted equipment that some people are talking. Remember that letter I sent you yesterday, George?
Yep.
I mean, this guy was talking about every kind of processor that was out there and then plugging it into your sound card, your mic in on your line in on your sound card. Come on. Gee whiz. Scared the heck out of me. We're in a very, very specific business here. This is home voiceover studio, a totally unique environment. I keep saying this, but I want you to keep understanding that. It's very, very important to understand that there's not a lot of people that really understand this, that really work a lot of different studios. You're looking at two of them right here. well, me right now, and George over here. Get the split shot there for a second, then, but not a lot of guys out there that totally understand it. There are a lot of people that are experts on their own studio, and they have their own thoughts about what's best for them and what suits their ears. And I got into it with somebody today because I said, audio geeks don't hire talent. Talent seekers hire talent, and most of them wouldn't be able to tell the difference because they're listening on a pair of laptop speakers.
Right.
So, and somebody took great offense to that.
Oh, really?
I mean, tremendous. Oh, no, you have to have the most expensive equipment. Forget it. All righty. Let's talk about something a little bit more interesting than that. I'm sorry. I had a little soapbox time. I thought I'd throw it on there. Let's talk about noise gates. Now, we've mentioned noise gates before, and noise gates are very, very important because if you've got a little bit of a noise floor, if you've got sound underneath your voice from the washing machine, from the furnace, things that you really can't control, like your neighbor's Harley, you need to learn how to use a noise gate and learn how to use it seamlessly. So here's my tip of the week on how to use a noise gate. So tonight I wanted to talk about noise gates. A lot of people out there don't know how to get rid of background noise, or they use the wrong program, like this little sampling thing. You sample a little bit of audio, it will mangle your audio. Stop using that. You need to use what's called a noise gate. There's some basic settings for it. I want to show you those, and you're going to learn how to use that properly. So let's start with a little audio that I've recorded. First, here's a pre-recorded file I have with some extra noise. Let's give it a listen. So let's take a look and see how you set your noise gate. We need some silence to measure first. I've actually got the furnace running. Then as you talk and take pauses in your speech, to take breaths, go to the next sentence or something, you can play with the setting to see if you're cutting off words or if the gate is set seamlessly. Okay, so what we've got here is something where I can show you and demonstrate exactly what happens when you cut off words. The first thing you want to do when you want to use a noise gate is find out what your noise floor is. That is, all of the noise that is behind your actual voice. Here's the best way to do it I found, and this is an Adobe Audition. There are other systems you can use too. Highlight a section of silence. Put it in loop so it'll repeat a few times and you can get an idea of exactly what you're looking at. Hit play. And as you can see right down here in this silence section where I'm not talking, the noise floor goes up to about -47. Okay? So we want to set a noise gate so that anything below -47, -48, -49, -50, and higher, which is below -47 on the volume scale there, will be cut off or reduced significantly. The simplest way I know to do this is with a very simple program called Zimplegate. Now, it's a plugin. Now, there's a way to do this in other programs that are a little more sophisticated, but I wanted to show you the simplest way to do this. Okay? So, this is the threshold here. This is the number, the level of your volume where the noise gate will open and close. So anytime your audio goes below -47, it will close the gate, and the gate will not allow any sound to go through, or in some instances reduce it by a significant level, and you can set that level. The attack is how fast the gate closes on the audio that goes below -47. I've got that set at 0.55 milliseconds. Very, very quick. But it still might be a little bit audible. 55 I find is about the best. Now the release is the number at which the gate opens up again and allows any audio above -47 to be heard. And the slower that is, the more you have a chance of cutting off words. So let's take a look at this and see what happens as we do this. Now the great thing about Zimplegate is you can actually play with the threshold, and I'll show you what happens as you run it here, and you'll see what happens as we change the levels. So let's take a look and see how you set your noise gate. We need some silence to measure first. I've actually got the furnace running. Then as you talk and take pauses in your speech, take breaths, go to the next sentence or something, play with the setting to see if you're cutting off words or if the gate is set seamlessly. As you saw, as I got louder and louder with the threshold setting here, as I went up to like minus 19 thereabouts, it starts to cut off words. You don't want that. So I had it set at minus 47.2. And the thing is, you can just go in there and go minus 47.2. Makes it a lot easier. And then hit apply. And it removes all of the background noise. Here, we'll highlight this and play it back and watch the meter. See? Nothing down there. Very simple way. It has to be set right in order to be very effective. And you can't have a whole lot of background noise to it. It's got to be around minus 50, anywhere between like minus 47 and minus 50 in order for it to be effective. So that's a noise gate. Every program has them. They don't necessarily call it a noise gate. Some have some preset settings in there. You have to use usually what's called a dynamics processor, and Audacity, Audition, Pro Tools, and in a lot of other programs have this capability. You just have to learn the settings. And I wanted to show you the three basic settings, which are threshold, attack, and release. There's also expand and a number of other ones. It's a little bit more advanced. Learn these basic ones first, and then we'll learn a little bit more. And that's my tip for the week.
El Dorado Recording Services.
Randy Thomas chiming in.
This is Alex Verdi.
Hi, this is Bill Ratner in Los Angeles.
Hi, this is Scott Rummel here in Yorba Linda, California.
Hi, my name is Rick Wasserman.
Hi, this is Tom Kane.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Marshall.
Hi, my name is Zurich.
Hi, I'm Mary McKittrick.
Hi, I'm Peter McHugh.
I was turned on to George by none other than Don LaFontaine, who always swore by his health.
George is absolutely awesome.
ISDN, Source Connect, Phone Patch, FTP, you name it, George has set it up.
It's really the best thing I've ever done for myself. I feel free, safe, fearless, like anything is possible in here.
Unless you like to look for opportunities to waste time, call George.
And he did all of that, long distance over the phone and the internet.
I'm very happy with George, and I cherish
I've
him.
got my travel kit, I got my Source Connect, I've got it all going on, thanks to you.
Thanks, George. You make it easy.
This is East West Audio Body Shop with Dan Leonard in the East and George Whittam in the West. Two guys I love spending Sunday nights with.
All right. Yeah. Sunday night, and we're having another wonderful time. And it's wonderful that you're all out there watching us tonight. We always invite your comments, your questions. People are having all sorts of weird problems. And usually the answer is Windows 7.
Yeah.
It's usually always the
and they hate it when we say that too, don't they?
They really do. They really do. Anyway, enough of this banter. I think it's time to bring in our incredibly special guest who's joining us tonight from his home in Los Angeles, California, the king of audiobooks. Let's give a big welcome to Scott Brick. Scott, welcome to East West Audio Body Shop.
Thanks for having me here. It's a privilege, and thank you, by the way, on the promo. I think you called me the king of audiobooks. I always thought that at most I'd be like very minor nobility, but it's nice to be called that.
Well, you're definitely in the court. Let's put it that way. How long have you been doing audiobooks? Now, I want you to tell a little bit about yourself. I mean, everybody who listens to this show or watches this show knows your name. A lot of people probably have heard you read books. How did you start doing audiobooks? And probably goes back to doing books on tape.
Yeah, the first ones were actually on cassette tape. I started doing audiobooks in 1999. I'd tried for years to get into the industry, but my agent didn't know how. And for those of you voiceover folks out there who are in the same circumstance. It's because, you know, our agents get us jobs from the breakdowns, but audiobooks don't typically advertise in the breakdowns. It's not the entertainment industry, it's the publishing industry. They just happen to hire entertainers.
Right.
So years went by. I had gone to UCLA as a theater major, and finally in '99, a friend of mine was working for Dove Audio in Beverly Hills. He, Bob Westall's his name. God bless that man. He got me an audition. Stefan Rudnicki was running the Dove Audio division at the time.
Oh, I know him.
Yep.
Stefan's a great guy. Stefan's got he's a magnificent narrator as well. He's got a voice that I always describe as I've heard it described as a fundamental force of nature, and it's true, but his voice is more like God is gargling with boulders. He's extraordinary. But he gave me my first job. Dan Musselman was leaving Dove Audio that day. The very first day I ever showed up in the studio was Dan Musselman's last day. He was leaving to go and head up the division for Books on Tape, the company Books on Tape. They've since been bought by Random House. And Dan, we kind of passed one another in the hallway, and he gave me his card, said, come record for me, and, you know, about a month or so. And, you know, within a year, unfortunately, Dove had gone bankrupt, but the books I've done, I think I've done 600 books all totaled. I think about 400 of those were for Dan for Random House. So
Wow.
I thank God for him every day.
Well, I'll bet.
That's fantastic.
So it's a matter more of being in the right place at the right time and having the skill to take advantage of it.
Yeah, it really was.
Oh,
You know, I teach classes a lot. People ask me, what can I do to become an audiobook narrator? And I say, well, there's things that you can do that will actually further your career to help you get the job. But the best thing that you can do in the meantime is just read constantly. And I think during all that time when I was just a voracious reader, I mean, I wasn't doing it thinking, great, this will stand me in good stead for when I'm recording audiobooks. I did this because I was passionate about it. But now that I'm recording audiobooks, it definitely, I can point to that and say, yeah, that's probably why.
Yeah. So you were an actor, or you were doing voice work or voiceover, and you just drifted into this specific specialty, or?
Well, it's funny. Yeah, I was a Shakespearean actor immediately after leaving college. I joined a company called Will & Company, where we did traveling productions. We would do 8 or 10 different classics, and we'd take them on the road and perform them mostly for schools all over California. And I did that off and on for about 10 years, and I would do the occasional voiceover job, but I actually didn't even have a voiceover agent at the time. I wanted specifically to do audiobooks because I'm a fan of old time radio, and I think audiobooks are the closest thing that we have to that anymore. And so, which is why I told my agent to always look for audiobook jobs. She just couldn't ever quite land one for me. But yeah, so I'm in other realms of voiceover as well. But actually, what got me into voiceovers was doing audiobooks.
So if you were trained as a classical actor then, and I'll bet that doing Shakespeare was probably tremendous practice for and education and training for what you're doing now.
I don't think there's any better practice for diction than doing Shakespeare. It's extraordinary if you can wrap your lips around text like that. But also the challenge in doing Shakespeare is always that you're trying to make heightened text sound conversational. If you watch Kenneth Branagh in Henry V, I mean, he does it. He succeeds spectacularly. Yeah. That was always the goal, to do that in Shakespeare, and it's the same thing in audiobooks, because especially when you're doing science fiction or fantasy, that's very heightened text. You know, the Dune books I've done all of those, and they've got phrases in there. The Zen Hekiganshu of Omicron Ceti 3, and come on. Who says that? Nobody says that. That doesn't come into everyday human speech, but you have to be able to say it as though it were a part of everyday speech. I got a great review once for one of the Dune books. It said that I sounded like I was a tour guide for the planet Arrakis. So I'll take that.
That's great. Now, how is it that you can change characters so quickly? Let me ask you this. Do you read the book cold, or do you read the entire book before you do it? I'll bet everybody's wondering about that.
Both. I used to do every job I used to read the books ahead of time. And definitely when I'm dealing with students, I always say, read the book ahead of time. You have to. You really do. You need to do your research. But I've done 600 of them now, and there are times where I'm just swamped and I'm doing a series, and let's say I've done 10 or 12 in the series before. I already know the characters. As long as I know who done it, I can peek towards the end and still know, which characters need what kind of accents. What are going to be the red herrings that I need to, give a little extra emphasis to. So there are times when I will read it cold. I try not to, but actually there are other narrators that I've met in the industry. Not that many of them. Most swear by reading it first, but I've run into one or two. And I remember a woman I met years ago. She said she never has ever read a book ahead of time. She wants to channel the audience. She wants to be the listener. She wants to discover things at the same time the listener does. Yeah. And I thought that's valid.
Yeah, I found that when you're reading an audiobook, after like a page or two or a chapter or so, you sort of take on the personality of the author, and you know what's going to happen, and you follow what their thinking is as you go along, and it's almost like channeling.
I think so. I know that the biggest part of the audiobook process is the casting, because quite often, and I tell my students this all the time, who you are as a storyteller, who you are as a person, can color the book in an appropriate way. If I was to suddenly make the Red Badge of Courage sound like, David Baldacci or Nelson DeMille, that would be a problem. But who we are as natural story what I bring to the table, my own unique instinctive just gifts, who I am as a person, can make the authorial voice come out more. The example I have of that is years ago when I did my first Nelson DeMille book. He's a brilliant writer, and most of his characters are New York detectives, kind of hard-bitten, world weary, and very, very funny. And anyway, Dan Musselman out at Random House, he comes to me and he says, "Scott, I got this book where the main character, he's a wise ass SOB from New York. I thought of you." I thought, producers have these databases where they keep track of, okay, this narrator knows how to speak Farsi, and this narrator is fluent in Italian, and this one speaks Latin, and this one has a British accent. And, there's a database that you keep track of narrator skills. And I thought, what does Dan's database say about me? But it's true who I am as a person. I mean, I'm sarcastic. I speak sarcasm like it's a language, and if so, I'm fluent. So the fact that Nelson DeMille's books, his characters quite often are very sarcastic. Dan just realized, the casting of that really, really worked. So who I am as a person actually helps pull out the authorial voice.
Yeah. We got a lot of questions from our viewers tonight who are just thrilled to have you here. Now, first off, I can hear and I can see that you're in your own studio. Chances are, here's one of those rare times when the phone actually rings.
Don't they know you're on TV?
It's got to be my mother-in-law, probably. It usually is. Anyway, you're in your own studio. And,
I am in my own studio. I'm going to go ahead and move this around just a little bit. Okay. It's not really all that exciting behind me.
Give us a little tour here. And
now, is that a closet or a booth that was built?
Well, what this is, I have a 2-story house, and the lower story used to be the basement years ago. It was converted into living space. And underneath the stairs was just wasted space. I mean, I didn't waste it. I put my comic book collection in here for years. But finally, about, I want to say 4 years ago, there was an audiobook series that had never been recorded. And it's my favorite books of all time. It's The Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever by Stephen R. Donaldson. And I thought the latest installment was coming out, and the publisher wasn't going to put it on audio. And I checked in first just to make sure. And they said, no, we're not going to do it. And I said, well, will it bother you if I did? And they said, no, go ahead. So I bought the rights. I start looking around pricing studios thinking, well, okay, well, I gotta rent the studio. I got to hire the producer. I got to hire the editor. And I thought, for the money, I'll just put the studio in myself. Dan Musselman at Random House gave me that advice, and it was terrific. I put the studio in. I record the whole thing myself. I did the punch-in method, so I was kind of editing on the fly. And so I just took this space, and it didn't even have a door. I brought in my contractor and, put the door up, put the Auralex up, went out and got some equipment. I checked in with Random House. I was doing most of my work for them. So I went to them and I said, what are your specifications? What do you prefer? I got, basically I just duplicated their setup. And
would you be so kind as to tell us more?
I put this in to do maybe 5 books, this series, the Chronicles of Tom's Cabinet, which, by the way, available on my website, www.scottbrickpresents.com, if I can just be,
please,
mercenary for a moment. But I did this for maybe 5 books, but I've done probably 80 or 90 books in this home studio since putting it in.
Well, in a nutshell, what did you first set up, and are you using the same gear? And what is it? What are you using?
Well, I made one change about 2 years ago. I was using a DigiDesign 02, a Focusrite. I had a Sennheiser 416 microphone, and I took a crash course in Pro Tools.
Yeah,
a buddy of mine who was an audiobook engineer, he came in and helped set it up. And I ran that for about 2 years, and then the DigiRack just kind of crapped out on me. And
they're known for that.
I took it in to get fixed out in Venice. I took it in there, and they couldn't find anything wrong with it. And I said, well, there sure as heck something wrong with it in my studio. So I switched it out for an M-Box Pro.
Yeah.
And that's essentially now. I also switched out the microphone. The Sennheiser is a great microphone for my voice, but usually when I'm in a larger studio, when I'm in a smaller space like this, it's a glorified closet.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't sounding quite right. So I switched it out for a Rode K2.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, we like to get into the geeky stuff. People are feast on that around here. Mouth clicking. Somebody asked about mouth clicking. What do you do about it?
All right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll show you the 4 things that I do. This is going to double as 2 things. First of all, pretend that this is tea, throat coat tea made by traditional medicinals. Every time I switch the page, I do 4 things. First one, tea. The next one, same prop, water, because we all know, the larynx is a muscle, and muscles fail without water. So this is the best thing for the clicks is just the water, swish it out. But then I use just these breath drops. They're kind of like Banaka, but I just go to, Walgreens and get the generic ones, or like 50 cents or $1, whatever. And I find that if you just put a drop or 2 of this on your tongue, it gets rid of all the cotton mouth. And for the lip smacking noises, I take Blistex. And it doesn't look the most masculine thing in the world. I don't put it on like lipstick. I don't. Because actually, I've learned that if I do that, it's too much. If I smear it on like lipstick, it's going to be too much. My lips will smack more. But I found that if I just dab it, which again doesn't always look masculine, especially when I'm doing it out in public like that. The head of Random House gives me a hard time about that so much every time he sees me doing it. But I found that's just enough to keep my lips moist and keep me from smacking. Yeah, so cool. Those are my tricks, my potions to get rid of mouth noise.
Do you get to do stuff? Do you get to record dry and let somebody else do all the post and the editing, or how much editing do you do? What's the balance of all that editing to mastering, all that?
I still do about half my recording at other people's studios, which is great because I'm a very social person, and I get cabin fever. So in that circumstance, they're definitely handling the whole thing. I just do a straight record.
Yep.
Make a mistake, I go back to the beginning of the line, and I carry on, and they edit it afterwards. When I'm here at my studio, typically I'm doing the punch-in method. Whenever I make a mistake, I hit stop. I move the cursor back to the end of the last sentence that I got correct, and I take off from there. So I'm just recording, punching in, and that's again editing on the fly. There's a certain amount of cleaning that needs to be done afterwards, but typically the publisher handles that.
Yeah.
At least they do in my case. I'm really blessed. I work a lot, and I wouldn't have the time to certainly go back and do it myself. I could probably subcontract it out to somebody, but again, it's just timing being what it is. The publisher, they're usually pretty lenient, and every narrator works out their own specific deal with every individual publisher. Some can handle it, some can't. Yeah.
How long does it take you to do the average book? I mean, obviously it depends on how long it is. How many chapters can you put out in a day? How many hours do you put into actual shooting?
I don't go by, people always ask me how many pages I do in a day or chapters. And I have to go by words, because it's the word count that, because, you can have a book with, huge font size and 500 pages. Excuse me, that would still only be maybe a half an hour book if it was just absolutely huge. But then you also work on books that are very, very dense. So the average audiobook, the average book in general is 100,000 words. Most people speak at a rate of about 9,500 words an hour. I'm slow. I'm laborious. I like to take my time with the read. So I speak slower than most people. I speak about 9,000 words an hour. So that's going to average out to about an 11-hour book on average.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to get about 3 hours worth of recording done a day. Maybe it takes me 6 hours. Maybe it takes me 8. But if I can get 3 hours done a day, that means the average book I'm done in 4 days.
So you're maintaining a focus for 3 hours, not 7 or 8 hours.
Well, no, I have to maintain the focus for 7 or 8 hours, because that gets edited down, and it takes me 2 hours to do 1 hour of final product.
That was my next questions. Is it like a 2-to-1, 3-to-1? What's your ratio?
It all depends. It depends on kind of when I get in the groove. I'm never usually worse than a 2-to-1 ratio.
That's great.
When I'm sailing along, I can go about 90 minutes to an hour, so like 1.5-to-1 ratio.
Awesome.
Yeah, maybe I missed this. Somebody was asking, do you do any processing on it, or do you do everything dry and you've got your level set and you send it on to the publisher that way, or do you do any of the mastering with that?
I do just very basic stuff. Every time I start recording for a new publisher, what I'll do is I'll send them a sound sample of the way that I have my studio set up, the settings my general settings that I use for myself. And if they ask me to make any changes, what I'll do is I'll take a Sharpie and I keep it color coordinated, like, black is Random House, red is Blackstone. Actually, right. I should go black is Blackstone, and
Don't change it now. You get screwed up.
No fun.
Yeah, right. And then I just make those hash marks on the Focusrite, on the equipment itself, so I know every time. Okay, I'm going from Blackstone to Random House. Great, I set them back. And again, some of them want compression, some of them don't. I keep track of all that. I set it up before the book starts, and the rest is typically handled by the publisher.
Yeah. This is a growing business. You're at the top of the heap here, if we want to call it a heap. And there's a lot of people getting into audiobooks. We've noticed it. George and I have noticed it in our business, that people are like, I got to do audiobooks.
Mm-hmm,
and with
sure.
ACX and a number of other things, I think it's great that there's a lot of people getting into it, and we're meeting some really wonderful storytellers in the process.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to people who are aspiring to do that? Because I know a lot of our viewers are specifically wanting to do that. And what would you said read a lot, but what else would you suggest?
Well, there's 4 things typically that I tell people to do if they want to practice. First of all, separate from these 4 tips, put together an audiobook demo. And anybody in VoiceOver knows a demo is vital.
Yeah.
But you need to have a different demo for each flavor or genre of voiceover you want to do, and audiobooks is no different. Don't send in your commercial demo to an audiobook publisher. Don't do it. They'll throw it right in the trash. It doesn't, because it isn't applicable. A commercial is a sprint, and we're doing to say it's a marathon is an understatement. It's, you do a commercial in 15 minutes and it'll take you sometimes. I mean, I did Atlas Shrugged. That was 62 hours finished. So definitely put together your audiobook demo and send it out there. And I do want to actually put a plug in for my website, only because I have some free information up there on my website.
Excellent.
It's actually down at the moment. It should hopefully be up within 48 hours. We just relaunched my website with a kind of a placeholder until it relaunches in next month, hopefully. But if you go onto my website next week, scottbrickpresents.com, if you look in the blog archive for January of 2009, I wrote a blog about how to make an audiobook demo. And there's lots of links in there. There's classes that you can take. There's people, Pat Fraley is somebody I work with. We teach together quite often. And the workshops that we do on the weekend, when you finish the workshop, you actually have your edited audiobook demo. So it'll link. Well, you can also go to patfraley.com, but it links to all that stuff from that blog, which you can see this coming week. Anyway, getting back to the original question, 4 things I always encourage people to do: read a ton, because the more you know about story structure, the better you're going to be able to channel the author. You know, we're the author's advocate. We're speaking for them when they can't speak for themselves, and the more you know about why they're doing what they're doing, why they're writing it this particular way. Oh, this is a red herring. This is a throwaway. When you know, the more you know about that, the better you'll be able to bring their words to life. I also tell people, do a ton of theater. The better acting skills you have, the more Shakespeare you do and learn about diction, you'll be really well served when you get into audiobooks. I always tell people to take a cold reading class, because there's going to be times where you're going to be handed a book and have to do it cold. It freaked me out the first time I did it. But I had done cold reading and I was proficient at it. And also, you know, it teaches you how to kind of look ahead on the page. You really need to do that, because, you know, you'll be doing this long paragraph, and if you're just focusing on the word that you're saying at that particular moment, you don't see that at the end of the paragraph it said Donald in a voice that rose to a fever pitch, really strident, you know, by the end of it. And you need to be able to see that coming so that you could start going up at the end of that paragraph, so you don't have to go back and do it. The 4th tip that I always tell people, and people think I'm kidding, but I'm not, is I always encourage people to tell jokes, because jokes, don't forward jokes, tell jokes. Yeah. Read them out loud if you have to when you get them emailed to you. But jokes have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Right.
And if you can master the short form, you can master the long form. If you can do it on the micro level, you can do it on the macro level.
That's a good one. I like that one. That's super. And especially with all the jokes that I keep getting that I probably shouldn't forward. They're much more fun to tell. Scott, this has been a super major league pleasure having you on. You'll come and join us again, won't you?
I'd love to. Yeah, anytime.
I mean, because there's still more and more questions. People have lots and lots of questions. So many questions, so little time.
What color is your Focusrite? Let me just ask you that. Is it green, silver, blue, or red?
It is silver.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
For a minute there, I thought you were going to be like, you know, what color's your parachute kind of thing. Nobody's ever asked what color the Focusrite.
Hey, we're audio guys. You know, that's very important for us to know. Thank you.
That's what we think about it. All right, Scott, thanks for being with us tonight. This has been great, and people are like taking notes like crazy. I can hear the.
You can watch it later, everybody. It's recorded. Right. I promise.
That's right. We recorded
thanks for having me on, guys. It's a real great pleasure.
All righty. Well, thanks for being here, Scott Brick, the king of audiobooks. You can put that on your website.
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, we've got another special guest coming up in just a couple of minutes. Rodger Cloud from Cloud Microphones.
I believe he's coming. He hasn't gotten here yet.
He's not here yet.
He's got a few minutes.
4:05.
I know.
He's still got a few minutes. Okay. Anyway, we'll be back, and we'll get him on hopefully, and we'll wrap things up in just a little bit. So you stay tuned right now.
3, 2, 3.
All right. And we're back here on East West Audio Body Shop. Boy, that was something. Scott,
tell me about it.
That was great. He had some great tips, and he's just a regular guy, like everybody in this business. They're just regular guys.
Right? Yeah, when somebody did ask, what is the Focusrite he uses, I didn't expect him to spit out VoiceMaster Pro or some, whatever the model is. That's why I asked him what color it is, because they have silver-faced units, green, red, and blue, and the silver ones are the affordable ones. So you don't need a $4,000 Red 1 preamp from Focusrite.
Right.
You just need something of quality, and you probably don't even need a Focusrite because most of them have a lot of processing. If you are going to get a Focusrite, maybe the ISA1 would be the most reasonable unit because it's really just a recording preamp without a lot of bells and whistles. But you don't need the top of the line, and you don't need a lot of complexity at all.
Oh, I have my lobbying. I'm seeing such growth in you.
Well,
you've come from. You got to have this to keep it simple, and this is what's working. But the technology today makes it easy to sound good without a lot of cost and a lot of sophistication.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true. I mean, I've always felt that way. I mean, I come from an interesting background. I didn't sit in front of an SSL board for years in a recording studio like most engineer type people, where they sit in this studio where they're spoiled by the top, literally $1 million mixing consoles and every piece of gear on the planet. I never really, other than an internship, had that kind of experience. So I've always been used to getting the most out of whatever it is that you have in front of you.
Right.
And that's what we're doing with this show. I mean, we're cobbling together bits and pieces to make this show happen. We've got that's what the back of my console looks like.
This is what it is.
If one of my clients came in here, and then sometimes I get nervous about clients coming in and seeing my actual where I work. And if they saw what this looked like, they'd probably think second. They were like, really? Is this the same guy that wires my studio? But, it's just knowing how far do you have to go to achieve the goal and not going a lot further, not overshooting it and not undershooting it, but hitting the goal is really what we're trying to do.
Right. And it was interesting that, that Scott talked about, this publisher needs this process. And he has it all stacked. He has it all listed in different files. And, and it's like, why don't I use black for red?
I know. It's funny.
That was great.
It's called recalling. I mean, we've been doing this in the pro audio world in studios. When I was an intern, I had to recall a Neve console that had 48 channels, EQ, everything. Imagine a Focusrite processor, with a bunch of knobs on it, vertically. And then 48 of those in a row. And you walk in and they hand me a few pieces of paper and say, you got to recall the board. Make every single knob on the entire console look like it is on this paper. That's what I had to do. So that's what he's doing. He's just recalling different settings for different clients. And it's something you have to do. I was doing that for John Gary the other week, for WWE. They like super bass, so he has to turn this knob all the way. So mark it there, and then for everybody else, remember to turn it back. So
that's right. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it doesn't look like Rodger's going to make it down the 405 from Anaheim because it's getting kind of late here in the East.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a phone call from him, although I wouldn't know because my phone is actually apparently not working.
No, apparently mine is.
So if he's called me, poor guy. He's not getting a hold of me because my phone is conveniently totally dead.
That's true.
Poor Rodger. But you know what? If he does come and the show's over, I'll have him come in anyway. I'll have him sit down and I'll record a little segment with him presenting his stuff. Because what happened is I went to his booth at the show and I recorded him doing a presentation. And he did great, except I had an audio problem. And the problem with using an iPhone, which is I was using an iPod for recording, the problem with it is there's no way to really know is the audio working. There's no confidence monitor, right? And so you kind of get on a roll. You shoot like 3 or 4 different people in a row because there's so many booths, and then you stop. You have a break, and let me go play back and see. Let's just double check, make sure the audio's there. Oh crap! Something was loose, or something was like whatever. And that's what happened with him. And I felt so bad. I went back at the end of the show yesterday when he was packing up, and I said, I blew your interview. I blew your thing. Do you want to come on our show? Let's do it by Skype. And he was like, oh, why don't I just, I'm like, well, we're on tomorrow, Sunday at 6:00. We're live. He's like, why don't I come on out? I'm like, well, the show ends at 6, doesn't it? He's like, actually, it ends at 5. So by the time I pack up, I should be able to make it by the end of your show. I'm like, well, you know what? Give it a shot, but I'm not holding my breath, man. Right. So anyway, we'll record something if he comes later.
Yeah. Well, I think it's time to talk a little bit about reliability. That's your cue to put on Harlan's website.
Absolutely.
Because our good friend H2, as those of us know him as, Harlan Hogan, has the best voiceover equipment website out there. VoiceOverEssentials.com. If you want it, he's got it. If he doesn't have it, you probably don't need it.
Probably don't need it, yeah.
As Garrison Keillor would say. VoiceOverEssentials.com. We talk about this every week, but he's got the books. He's got the know-how. He's made the choices for you.
Look at this book. The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. Freaking brilliant. I mean, who would think of having that in their store unless they're actually in the business, working it and knowing what it takes to actually become successful. But who would else have this book in their store?
Right.
I mean, how would you find that book otherwise?
That's right. He studies this stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, he has nothing else to do but find all these great books for us, and maybe an occasional voiceover job. But he sells what he uses. If it's on this website, at some point he has actually used it in his actual job. That's what I talked to him just recently, and he said, I honed down what's on the website. I trimmed it. And I said, yeah, you removed a lot of stuff. He's like, yeah, we flushed it out. I only want to have stuff on there that I use or, that I've actually used in the past. That's right. That's right. And we know the stuff he uses his own microphone. He uses that VO1A because he sounds good on it. Damn good.
Of course.
And he does use a MicPort Pro, and he does use, of course, his Porta Booth when he's on the road. He doesn't like making the pillow forts anymore. And he came up with this new light. He's got Throat Coat there, which the
Entertainer's Secret, which tastes like that, but it does work. And great books, all the stuff you would ever need to do voiceover. He's got there. His prices are great. His shipping is great. And you get it really, really quick. There's his own book, that he wrote with Jeff Fisher. Lots of great information in there. There's Money Where Your Mouth Is. All the really good books he has there, and they're all worth reading if you're into reading books, or unless you just like listening to our show, and we can tell you about all this stuff. But you can go to his website and you can get all that stuff. That's VoiceOverEssentials.com. in Chicagoland. And we thank Harlan for being our sponsor here on East West Audio Body Thank you, Harlan. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, H2.
You're the man.
He is the man. He is the man.
Well, let's see if I can scrape us up a bad audio of the week, because I was going to replace it with a segment from Rodger here.
Yeah.
But
no, it was bad audio. There was none.
We should do it. When we have a surprise guest, we should do it like Tonight Show, where it's a walk on. We don't say anything, and that way, if they don't decide to show up, or if they can't make it, no disappointment.
Yeah, that would be really exciting if Jack Benny walked on.
No kidding. That would be kind of freaky. Actually, that'd be a nightmare.
Anyway,
well, we've got a lot of hopes for some great guests to come on the show this season or this year. I think it's only going to get better. Yeah, my wife just came in and went, I was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's made it. And ironically, my phone is dead. It's totally like it died. It won't even turn on.
That's what happens when you're at a show and you can't plug your phone in. It just.
Yeah, well, I've had it charging for the last few hours, and it won't even turn on. It's a really freakish thing. So, poor guy, if he's trying to call me.
Yeah, Rob Kirby is saying that apparently there's a big jam up at the 22 and the 405. You get onto the Garden Grove there, and they're just finishing up the exit. Those of you who don't live in L.A., I don't live in L.A., but I know what I'm talking about because that's how I get to my mom's house is that way. And the 22 and the 405 he's saying it's traffic hell.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's probably where he is.
It could be possibly where he is. Poor guy. I don't have a voicemail from him, so he hasn't left me a message. So anyway, without further ado, when he does come, if he does come, I'll get a recording and we'll put it on a future show. I will not make his trip out here, a waste of time for him.
Tape an interview with him.
The guy is cool. I mean, he manufactures and does everything, in the U.S., pretty much all in Tucson. And some of the product, I think the metalwork is done on a Navajo, and he could correct me on that. I think he said it was on a Navajo nation. So he's like, you don't get more American made than that,
Right.
So
Cloud makes that really great ribbon microphone, and I was really jammed because I had my Electro Voice V3 here.
Yeah, I know you had it ready to go.
1933 with this incredibly heavy bass, which is actually good for doing curls too. But
man, they don't make them. Well, like I was going to say, they don't make them like that anymore, but they actually do, because there's companies like Cloud, really trying to bring back that amazing ribbon microphone sound. And it's not for everybody. It's not for every voice. Well, I've got another special guest in the audience, in the studio tonight. Ella couldn't resist. Ella, say hi to everybody.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Hi. She gets better every week.
I know. She's such a ham.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's practicing her voiceover. That's her voiceover warm up.
Too bad she's not a 14-year-old boy. We need her. But
good to see you, Ella.
Yes. Anyway,
bye.
Did we find some bad audio of the week?
I've been too busy shooting the breeze here and screwing around. Let me. No, you know what? I don't want to screw around. We'll get you a really good one next week. We'll get you a really good one next week.
It's 13 minutes past the hour, no matter where you are. Somehow on our website it got messed up. People are you on at 6:30? I said, yeah, we're broadcasting from Newfoundland. Why would we be on at 9 in the East Coast and 6:30 on the West Coast? Unless there was some misalignment of the stars or something.
Exactly.
Anyway, do we have a guest lined up for next week? I think we got a couple of possibilities.
Yeah, we do. I think there's two names right now that are possible guests for next week, but I don't have a confirmation, so we will keep you guys. We'll keep you guys guessing until we can get it locked down.
That's right.
But I do have a photo of a studio I could share.
Oh, you got to show. That's right. Send in your photos of the studios because we're going to show these each week.
Yeah, we've got some photos here. These I like. These are from Dale Bliss, and this is a neat looking studio. It's got great lighting. It's got great mood. Let me pop open this one here.
And he's got great artifacts in there too. I saw this and I'm like, ooh, ah.
Yeah, it's all about the artifacts.
That's right.
Here, let me pop these open here and we'll take a look at them and share them. And then we'll mercilessly, is that the word I'm looking for?
I don't know. It's got to be there somewhere.
Okay, there it is.
Okay, let's show him Dale's studio. Dale's a great guy, by the way. I've met Dale. All right.
So there's the main control room.
One in there.
The business end of the studio. I like the red theme. Looks really good.
Oh, and he's got a lava lamp too.
A lava lamp. I have a good client named TJ Jones.
Yeah.
He calls the studio the Lava Shark Studio, and it's full of sharks and lava lamps.
Yeah. Look at all. I mean, he's got the arms, but you'll notice on top of the shelf there, there's an RCA 77DX, and there's a BK11A. You're all like, oh, what?
Well,
both ribbon microphones. I
would not have been able to call the BK11A. That's a good. I'm impressed, man.
Hey, I collect this stuff. I know it's.
Then let's see. We got a shot of his business. The business end of the studio here is the. Looks like a 414. That's an AKG 414.
It is indeed.
Be a BULS or an XL2. Can't really tell exactly. I think that might be an XL2, one of the newer ones.
And you'll notice that the surrounding is curtains.
Yeah,
we've been finding that works very, very well. And
it can work great.
Heavy drapes. Those work really well. What else we got with Dale's?
Another angle of the control room. iMac.
KRK monitors.
Yeah. He listens to the show, obviously.
That's true.
Although that's a Fast Track Pro. That looks like a Fast Track Ultra, maybe from M Audio, underneath the monitor there.
Yep.
Cool rig like that. And let's see. I'm not sure what that is, but maybe it looks like a punching bag. I'm not sure.
Or a Chinese lantern.
Yeah, this thing in the corner looks like it might be like a bass trap of some sort.
He just put a nice covering on it.
And one last mic.
Okay, one last mic here.
An RE20. So he must do do some radio, or maybe he uses it for narration. I don't know. Some people like them for that because they're so smooth.
Yeah, they are, but you got to get up close to them. They're broadcast mics.
Well, that's what that cloud lifter helps you with.
That's true. If you want your studio on our show, email us pictures of it. We want to see. We've gotten a bunch. Got some interesting ones so far.
Yeah, we've got more to share, but we'll share them as we get them.
That's right. So send them in to ewabshop@gmail.com, and we'll get them on the show. All right. Jesus.
I think it's time to pull the plug on this one.
I think we've been on here just a little long. Still 30 people watching this. They love us. When George and Dan talk shop, people listen.
We do our best.
We try. Anyway, we will see you next week. I'm Dan Leonard in the East.
I'm George Whittam in the West.
And together we are East West Audio Body Shop. Try and keep up with me. And we'll see you next Sunday night, 9 o'clock on the East Coast.
That's right. 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock out here on the West Coast.
And if you're in Dallas, Susan, it's at 8.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Good night.